There comes a moment in a believer's life when things begin to change quietly. Doors that once stayed closed start opening in unexpected ways. Your heart begins to feel different. Your priorities begin to shift. What once attracted you no longer excites you. What once distracted you now feels empty. And suddenly, you start thinking about something you never took seriously before. Marriage. Nikah. But not just any relationship. A halal union that brings barakah, peace, and closeness to Allah. Many people believe marriage only happens through effort, family discussions, or coincidence. But believers understand something deeper. Sometimes Allah begins preparing your heart long before the person arrives. He reshapes you. He purifies you. He guides you. He protects you from things that could damage your future. And if you pay attention carefully, you may start noticing certain signs. Signs that Allah is quietly preparing you for nikah. In this video, we will explore 7 powerful signs that Allah may be preparing you for marriage. And the final sign might be the one that confirms everything. Before Allah grants someone the blessing of nikah, He often begins with something far more important than introducing a spouse. He begins by transforming the heart. This change does not arrive loudly. It does not happen in a single dramatic moment. Instead, it unfolds quietly, gradually, almost like the first light of dawn slowly spreading across the horizon. One day you begin to notice that the things which once filled your time and attention no longer satisfy you the same way. The conversations that used to feel exciting now seem empty. The distractions that once kept your heart busy begin to feel heavy and meaningless. It is as if Allah is gently pulling your heart away from a life of careless wandering and guiding it towards something deeper, something more meaningful, something more sacred. You begin to think differently about life. Your thoughts begin to move beyond temporary pleasures and momentary entertainment. Instead, you start imagining stability, responsibility, and purpose. You begin to think about building a home where Allah is remembered, where peace lives between two hearts, and where faith becomes the foundation of everyday life. Marriage begins to appear in your mind not as a burden, not as a social expectation, but as a beautiful act of worship. You begin to realize that nikah is not simply about two people living together. It is about two believers helping one another grow closer to Allah. This shift inside the heart is one of the earliest and most powerful signs of spiritual maturity. Because before Allah gives someone the responsibility of caring for another soul, He first reshapes that person from within. Your priorities begin to change in ways you never expected. You begin valuing character over appearance. You begin valuing faith over attention. You begin valuing sincerity over popularity. Suddenly, the idea of a righteous spouse becomes more important than temporary relationships. You start making silent du'as in your heart, asking Allah to guide you toward someone who will protect your faith, strengthen your iman, and walk beside you through both ease and hardship. And the most remarkable part of this transformation is that no one may even notice it happening. Your friends may still see the same person. Your family may still treat you the same way. But inside your heart, something has shifted. A quiet sense of responsibility begins growing. A new awareness begins forming. A deeper longing for halal companionship begins appearing. And this transformation is not random. It is preparation. Allah does not place someone into the sacred trust of marriage without first nurturing the heart that will carry it. Just as a seed must grow roots before it rises above the soil, a believer's heart must grow maturity before Allah grants them the blessing of nikah. Sometimes people think they are waiting for marriage, but in reality, Allah may be preparing them for it. Because the strongest marriages are not built in a single day. They are built through years of quiet spiritual growth, personal reflection, and sincere connection with Allah. And when this change begins happening within you, when your heart begins moving away from distractions and toward purpose, when you begin desiring a relationship that pleases Allah rather than one that only pleases the world, it may be a sign that Allah is guiding you toward one of the most beautiful chapters of your life, a chapter where two hearts meet under the mercy of Allah, a chapter called Nikah. When Allah removes certain people from your life, after Allah begins changing the heart, The next stage of preparation often feels confusing at first, because sometimes, before Allah brings the right person into your life, He removes the wrong ones. This stage can be painful. Friendships that once felt permanent slowly begin fading away. Conversations that used to happen every day suddenly stop. People you once trusted begin drifting away without explanation. At first, the heart struggles to understand what is happening. You may ask yourself difficult questions. Why did this friendship end? Why did that connection suddenly disappear? Why did someone I cared about walk away? These moments can feel heavy. They can leave a person sitting alone late at night wondering why certain relationships did not last. But what many believers do not realize is that sometimes Allah removes people not as a punishment, but as protection. Because every person who walks beside you influences your heart. Every conversation shapes your thinking. Every relationship leaves a mark on your character. And when Allah is preparing someone for nikah, He often begins by clearing the path. He begins separating you from people who could damage the peace of your future. Perhaps there was someone who kept pulling you toward distractions, someone who made you forget your priorities, someone who kept your heart attached to things that were temporary. Allah, in His wisdom, may remove such people quietly, not to hurt you, but to protect the life He is preparing for you. Because the person written for your nikah deserves a heart that is free from emotional chaos, a heart that is not tangled in past attachments, a heart that is capable of building something pure and stable. Sometimes people leave your life because their role in your story has already ended. Not every person is meant to walk with you into your future. Some people are only meant to appear in one chapter. And when that chapter closes, Allah gently turns the page. At the moment it happens, the heart may feel confusion. You may feel abandoned. You may even feel loneliness. But later, when you look back, you begin to see the wisdom behind it. You realize that if those people had stayed, they might have pulled you away from the life Allah was preparing for you. They might have distracted you from becoming the person your future spouse needed you to be. They might have filled your heart with attachments that could have damaged your future marriage. Allah, who knows what we do not know, sometimes protects us by creating distance. And this protection often comes in forms we do not immediately understand. Sometimes it appears as silence. Sometimes it appears as separation. Sometimes it appears as endings we never expected. But in reality, Allah is not closing your story. He is simply making space for the next chapter. Because when the right person eventually enters your life, the peace of that connection will feel very different. There will be clarity instead of confusion. Respect instead of emotional chaos, purpose instead of distraction. And you will begin to understand that all those earlier separations were not losses, they were preparations. Allah was quietly removing the temporary so that the permanent could arrive without obstacles, and that is one of the most beautiful realities of divine planning. Sometimes the greatest blessings begin with the quiet removal of what was never meant to stay. When Allah plants the desire for purity in your heart, after Allah begins changing your heart and quietly removing certain people from your life, another transformation often begins to appear. This change is deeper, more personal, and sometimes even surprising. You begin developing a strong awareness of purity, not just outward purity, but the purity of the heart, the eyes, the thoughts, and the intentions. The same situations that once seemed normal now feel uncomfortable. Conversations that once felt harmless now make your heart uneasy. You begin noticing how easily the heart can be distracted and how quickly small compromises can grow into larger ones. And slowly, without anyone forcing you, you begin protecting yourself. You begin lowering your gaze more consciously. You begin speaking more carefully. You begin distancing yourself from environments that encourage temptation. This shift does not come from fear of people. It comes from a deeper awareness of Allah, a quiet realization that Allah sees what no one else sees. And when that awareness grows inside the heart, something powerful happens. The believer begins choosing purity even when no one is watching. This is one of the most beautiful signs of spiritual preparation. Because when Allah plans to bless someone with a halal relationship, He often prepares their heart to value what is pure. A marriage filled with barakah is not built only on attraction. It is built on trust, on discipline, on sincerity, on the ability to control desires rather than being controlled by them. And Allah, in His wisdom, knows that such qualities must grow before the responsibility of nikah arrives. So He begins nurturing them quietly. You may find yourself walking away from conversations that once entertained you. You may notice that certain forms of attention no longer feel satisfying. You may even begin feeling uncomfortable with the idea of relationships that exist outside the boundaries set by Allah. Where once there may have been curiosity, now there is caution. Where once there may have been excitement, now there is reflection. And sometimes the heart begins longing for something different, something cleaner, something more meaningful. Instead of temporary attention, you begin wishing for a connection that carries the blessing of Allah, a connection that is witnessed by family, protected by faith, strengthened by mutual respect. You begin understanding that a relationship built through halal paths carries a peace that no secret attachment can ever provide. And this realization itself is part of Allah's preparation, because the person written for your nikah deserves a heart that values dignity, a heart that respects boundaries, a heart that understands the sacredness of commitment. When two people enter marriage with this mindset, their relationship becomes something much more powerful than companionship. It becomes an act of worship, two believers helping each other guard their faith, helping each other grow closer to Allah, helping each other remain strong when the world becomes difficult. And this kind of partnership can only be built on a foundation of purity. That is why Allah sometimes begins changing a believer's habits long before marriage arrives. He teaches them patience. He teaches them restraint. He teaches them self-respect. And through these lessons, the heart slowly becomes ready for the responsibility of loving someone in a way that pleases Allah. So if you ever notice that your heart has become more protective of its modesty, if you find yourself avoiding things that once seemed normal, if you feel a growing desire to keep your intentions clean and your interactions respectful, do not think this change is random. It may be one of the quiet signs that Allah is preparing your heart for something sacred, preparing you for a relationship that will not only bring companionship in this world, but also help guide both hearts toward Jannah. When your heart begins making sincere dua for a righteous spouse, after Allah purifies the heart and strengthens a believer's sense of modesty and self-respect, another beautiful transformation often begins to appear. The tongue begins to make a new kind of dua, not the quick dua that passes through the lips without thought, not the casual wish that disappears moments later, but a sincere dua that rises from deep inside the heart, a dua that you repeat again and again when you are alone. You begin asking Allah for something very specific, a righteous spouse, someone who will help you protect your faith, someone who will remind you of prayer when you forget, someone who will encourage you when your iman becomes weak, someone who will walk beside you through both the calm moments and the difficult storms of life. This kind of dua often appears when Allah begins preparing someone for nikah, because before two people meet in this world, their names are already written together in the decree of Allah, and sometimes Allah places the desire for that companionship in the heart long before the meeting actually happens. You may find yourself raising your hands late at night and asking Allah for a spouse who loves the Quran, a spouse who values honesty, a spouse who speaks gently, a spouse who fears Allah even when no one is watching. And the more you think about it, the more you realize something important. You are no longer asking for marriage simply to follow society. You are asking for marriage to protect your faith, to build a home filled with remembrance of Allah, to create a family where children grow up hearing the words of the Quran, to share a life that is not only about this world, but also about preparing for the next. This shift in intention is powerful, because when a believer begins making dua for a righteous spouse, it often means their understanding of marriage has matured. Marriage is no longer seen as romance alone. It becomes a path of worship, a path of responsibility, a path of mutual support between two believers who want to help each other reach Jannah, The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ reminded us that marriage protects a believer's faith. He said, "When a servant marries, he has completed half of his religion." Think about how powerful that statement is. Half of the religion. That means marriage is not just a personal milestone. It is a spiritual journey, a partnership built on trust, patience, sacrifice, and devotion to Allah. And because it is such a sacred responsibility, Allah often prepares the heart through dua. The more you ask Allah for a righteous spouse, the more your intentions begin to purify. Instead of focusing on beauty alone, you begin asking for character. Instead of focusing on status, you begin asking for faith. Instead of focusing on what someone can give you, you begin thinking about how the two of you can help each other grow closer to Allah. And something beautiful happens during this stage. While you are asking Allah for the right person, Allah may also be shaping you into the right person for someone else. Because the person written for you may also be making dua. They may also be asking Allah for someone who is sincere, patient, and devoted to faith. Somewhere, perhaps in another city or another country, another heart may be asking Allah for the exact qualities that Allah is slowly developing inside you. And this is the beauty of Allah's plan. Two people can be walking separate paths, living separate lives, making separate duas, yet Allah is quietly preparing both of them for the moment their paths will meet. So if you find yourself making this dua more often, if you feel a sincere longing for a spouse who brings you closer to Allah, if your heart begins imagining a home where faith is stronger than the distractions of the world, do not ignore that feeling. It may be one of the signs that Allah is preparing your heart for one of the most important blessings of your life, a spouse who becomes your companion in worship, your partner in patience, your support in hardship, and your comfort on the journey toward Jannah. After the heart begins making sincere dua for a righteous spouse, another quiet transformation often starts taking place. Your life begins to stabilize, not perfectly, not instantly, but gradually, step by step, things begin to shift. Your mindset begins changing in ways you may not even notice at first. The things that once seemed exciting start losing their attraction. Risky decisions that once felt adventurous now begin to feel irresponsible. Suddenly, you begin thinking more seriously about the future. You begin thinking about responsibility, about providing, about protecting, about building something meaningful that will last for years, not just moments. This change is not accidental. It is part of Allah's preparation, because marriage is not simply about emotions or attraction. Nikah is a responsibility. It is a trust placed in the hands of two believers who must support each other, protect each other, and help each other grow. And Allah, in His wisdom, does not give this responsibility to someone who is not ready to carry it. So before the blessing arrives, Allah often begins preparing a person's life. You may notice that your priorities begin to rearrange themselves. Instead of spending time chasing distractions, you begin investing time in things that build your future. You may start focusing more on your work, your education, or your personal development. You begin thinking about how to become someone dependable, someone who can be trusted, someone who can lead a family with wisdom or support a family with patience and strength. For men, this preparation often appears in the form of a stronger sense of responsibility, the desire to become financially stable, the desire to protect and provide, the desire to create a home where safety, respect, and faith can exist together. For women, this preparation may appear in the form of emotional maturity and clarity, the desire to build a peaceful home, the desire to nurture and support, the desire to create an environment where love and faith grow together. Both forms of preparation are equally important, because a successful marriage requires both hearts to be ready. Two people who understand patience, two people who understand sacrifice, two people who understand that marriage is not about perfection, but about commitment. And as this preparation continues, another change begins to appear. You begin valuing stability over excitement. You begin appreciating calm over chaos. You begin realizing that peace is more valuable than attention. This realization is powerful. Because many people spend years chasing excitement, only to later realize that excitement fades quickly, but peace remains. And the most blessed marriages are not the loudest ones, they are the calmest ones. They are the homes where respect lives between husband and wife, where small acts of kindness happen every day, where both partners remind each other of Allah, where forgiveness is stronger than pride. And Allah often prepares a believer for this kind of life by first bringing stability into their own character. You become more patient, more thoughtful, more careful with your decisions. You begin understanding that your actions no longer affect only you. One day, they may affect your spouse, your children, your family, your home, and this awareness slowly transforms how you approach life. You begin becoming the type of person who can build something lasting, not just a relationship that feels good today, but a marriage that remains strong for decades. And sometimes during this stage, you may even notice that certain opportunities begin appearing. New doors open, new responsibilities come your way, new chances to grow begin showing up. These are not always coincidences. Sometimes they are part of Allah's preparation. Because when the time for Nikah arrives, the believer should be capable of carrying the trust that comes with it. And Allah, who knows the future better than anyone, prepares His servants step by step. He shapes their mindset. He strengthens their character. He stabilizes their life, so that when the right person eventually appears, the believer is not only ready to love them, but ready to build a life with them, a life built on patience, a life built on responsibility, a life built on faith. And that kind of preparation is one of the clearest signs that Allah may be guiding someone toward the blessing of Nikah. When your heart begins rejecting haram and choosing what pleases Allah, as Allah continues preparing a believer for the blessing of Nikah, another deep transformation begins to appear inside the heart. It is not something that happens overnight. It grows slowly, quietly, through reflection, experience, and the guidance of Allah. The heart begins developing a strong resistance to haram relationships. Things that once seemed normal in society start feeling heavy on the conscience. Conversations that cross the boundaries of modesty begin to feel uncomfortable. Interactions that once felt harmless now make the heart restless. And this restlessness is not weakness, it is a sign of awakening, because when Allah intends goodness for someone, He places a light inside their heart that helps them recognize what is right and what is wrong. You begin realizing that temporary attention is not worth the loss of barakah. You begin understanding that moments of excitement can leave behind years of regret. You begin seeing how many relationships built on haram foundations eventually collapse under the weight of mistrust and emotional pain. And slowly, your heart begins choosing a different path. Instead of chasing attention, you begin protecting your dignity. Instead of seeking validation from people, you begin seeking approval from Allah. Instead of allowing emotions to control your actions, you begin disciplining your desires. This transformation requires strength, because the world often moves in the opposite direction. Modern culture celebrates temporary relationships. It encourages emotional attachments without responsibility. It presents haram as normal and halal as difficult. But when Allah begins guiding a believer, the heart starts seeing through these illusions. You begin realizing that true peace cannot grow from disobedience. No matter how attractive something may appear at first, if it distances you from Allah, it will eventually bring emptiness. This realization becomes a turning point. You begin guarding your eyes more carefully. You become more aware of the environments you spend time in. You choose your words more thoughtfully. You avoid situations that could lead to temptation. And this discipline is not about restricting your life. It is about protecting your future. Because every decision made today shapes the life you will live tomorrow. The person you marry deserves honesty. They deserve loyalty. They deserve a heart that has not been scattered across countless attachments. They deserve someone who understands the sacredness of commitment. And Allah in His wisdom begins preparing that heart long before the marriage happens. He teaches the believer patience. He teaches them self-control. He teaches them that dignity is more valuable than temporary pleasure. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ beautifully reminded believers of the importance of protecting their modesty. He ﷺ said that when someone safeguards their chastity, Allah will protect them. This protection is not only spiritual, it protects your future marriage, it protects your emotional stability, it protects the trust that will exist between you and your spouse. Because trust is one of the most fragile and precious parts of a marriage, and trust grows strongest in hearts that have learned discipline before the relationship even begins. During this stage of preparation, something else begins to happen. Your heart begins longing for halal companionship more strongly than ever before, not out of loneliness, but out of a sincere desire to complete your faith in a way that pleases Allah. You begin understanding that marriage is not simply about romance. It is about building a partnership that helps both people stay firm on the path of Islam. A husband reminding his wife to pray, a wife encouraging her husband when life becomes difficult, two believers supporting each other through hardship, celebrating blessings together, and reminding each other of Allah during every stage of life. This kind of companionship cannot be built on weak foundations. It requires hearts that understand sacrifice, hearts that understand loyalty, hearts that value obedience to Allah above personal desires. And when Allah begins planting these values inside your heart, it is often a sign that He is preparing you for something sacred. Because a successful nikah is not built in the moment two people say, "I accept." It is built through years of unseen preparation, through moments when a believer chooses discipline over temptation, through moments when they walk away from what is easy in order to protect what is right, through moments when they trust that Allah will replace what they left for His sake with something better. And Allah always keeps His promises. The person who protects their heart for the sake of Allah will never lose, because Allah is preparing something far greater than what they walked away from. A relationship filled with peace, a home filled with mercy, a marriage built on faith. And when two hearts that have protected themselves for Allah finally meet under the blessing of Nikah, their union carries a special kind of barakah, a barakah that cannot be created by attraction alone, a barakah that comes from obedience, from patience, from trust in Allah's plan. And when you begin feeling that your heart is naturally turning away from haram and moving toward what pleases Allah, understand that this is not simply discipline. It may be one of the most powerful signs that Allah is preparing you for the sacred trust of marriage. When your heart learns to trust Allah's timing, after Allah transforms your heart, removes certain people from your life, strengthens your modesty, inspires you to make sincere dua, stabilizes your life, and guides you away from haram, there comes one final and powerful stage of preparation. It is the stage of patience, the stage where your heart learns to trust Allah's timing completely. This stage is not easy, because by this point, your heart already desires a righteous spouse. You already understand the beauty of nikah. You already long for companionship that brings you closer to Allah. Yet the right person has not appeared yet. And this waiting period can test the heart deeply. You may see people around you getting married, friends announcing engagements, family members asking questions, social media filled with wedding pictures and celebrations. And sometimes, quietly, a question may appear inside your heart. Ya Allah, when will my time come? This question is natural. Even the strongest believers experience moments of uncertainty. But during this stage, Allah teaches something incredibly valuable. He teaches the believer to trust His wisdom, because Allah sees what we cannot see. He knows the future we cannot imagine. He understands the timing that will protect us from harm and lead us toward the greatest blessing. Sometimes a person believes they are ready for marriage today, but Allah knows that one more year of growth will make them a better spouse. Sometimes a believer feels impatient, but Allah knows that the person written for them is still being prepared somewhere else. Perhaps that person is also learning patience. Perhaps they are also growing in faith. Perhaps they are also making dua for someone exactly like you. Two lives moving through different journeys, different cities, different experiences, yet both slowly being guided toward the same meeting point. And Allah, who controls every moment of time, is arranging everything perfectly. The Quran reminds us of a powerful truth. Allah says that perhaps you dislike something while it is good for you, and perhaps you love something while it is bad for you, and Allah knows while you do not know. This verse carries a deep message for anyone waiting for marriage, because sometimes delays are not rejections. Sometimes delays are protection. Allah may be protecting you from someone who would have broken your heart, someone who would have weakened your faith, someone who would have brought chaos into your life. Instead, Allah allows time to pass until the right person appears, and when the right person arrives, everything begins to feel different. The confusion disappears, the uncertainty fades, the connection feels calm instead of chaotic. The relationship grows through respect rather than emotional games, and most importantly, both hearts feel closer to Allah through the relationship. This is the kind of marriage that carries barakah. Not a relationship rushed through impatience, but a union guided by Allah's perfect timing. During this waiting stage, the believer begins understanding something even deeper. Marriage itself is not the ultimate destination. The ultimate destination is Jannah. Marriage is simply a path that helps two believers support each other on the journey toward that destination. So instead of allowing impatience to weaken their faith, the believer focuses on preparation. They strengthen their relationship with Allah. They improve their character. They develop patience. They grow in wisdom and maturity. They become the kind of person that a righteous spouse would be grateful to have. And this preparation is incredibly valuable, because the best marriages are not formed by two perfect people. They are formed by two believers who have learned patience, humility, and trust in Allah. Two hearts that understand forgiveness. Two hearts that support each other through hardship. Two hearts that remember Allah together during both happiness and difficulty. And when such hearts finally meet under the bond of Nikah, their marriage becomes something beautiful. Not perfect, but blessed. Not free from challenges, but strong enough to overcome them. Because its foundation was built long before the wedding day. It was built during the waiting, during the patience, during the quiet trust that Allah's plan is always better than our own. So if you find yourself waiting today, do not think that your story is delayed. Do not think that you have been forgotten. Allah has not forgotten you. The one who created your heart knows exactly what it needs, and when the right moment arrives, when both hearts are ready, when the timing is perfect in the decree of Allah, the person written for you will enter your life in a way that no one can stop. No distance will prevent it. No obstacle will block it. No delay will cancel it, because when Allah writes two souls for each other, their meeting is not coincidence. It is qadr, it is destiny. And when that moment finally arrives, you will look back at all the waiting, all the patience, all the lessons, and you will realize something beautiful. Allah was never delaying your blessing. He was preparing it in the most perfect way, and preparing you to receive it with a heart full of faith, gratitude, and trust in Him. So if you are seeing these signs in your life, pause for a moment and reflect. Perhaps the changes happening inside your heart are not random. Perhaps the people who quietly left your life were not losses. Perhaps the patience you are learning is not delay. Perhaps Allah is preparing you, preparing your heart, preparing your character, preparing your life for one of the most sacred relationships a believer can experience. Nikah is not just about two people finding each other. It is about two souls meeting under the mercy of Allah. Two believers promising to help each other stay firm on the path of Islam. Two hearts building a home where the name of Allah is remembered every single day. And the most beautiful marriages are not the ones that begin quickly. They are the ones that are prepared slowly by Allah. Marriages where both people learned patience before they met. Marriages where both hearts were purified before they connected. Marriages where both spouses understand that love alone is not enough. Faith is the foundation. If Allah is preparing you for Nikah, then focus on becoming the person that your future spouse will thank Allah for. Strengthen your relationship with Allah. Protect your heart. Improve your character. Increase your du'as, because the more you grow closer to Allah, the closer you move toward the person written for you. And remember something powerful. Your spouse may already be somewhere in this world right now, perhaps in another city, perhaps in another country, perhaps making the same dua you are making tonight. And Allah, who controls every moment of time, is guiding both of you step by step toward the moment your paths will meet. If this reminder touched your heart, share it with someone who may need it, and tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? May Allah grant every sincere heart a righteous spouse who brings them closer to Him, a spouse who becomes their partner in patience, their support in hardship, and their companion on the journey toward Jannah. Ameen.